welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I'm, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 235th episode, our guest is Noam Bardin. Noam Bardin is founder of Post, a platform built for real people, real news, and civil conversations. Prior to launching Post in 2022, Noam founded and served as CEO of Waze, one of the world's most talked about startups, through its acquisition by Google in June 2013. Featured as one of Business Insider's 100 Stars of Silicon Valley, Noam holds a BA in economics from the Hebrew University and a Master's of Public Administration from Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, where he started planning on how to save the world. He's now decided it will be one post at a time and looks forward to everyone joining him in conversation at post.news / Noam, Noam. And you can follow me on Post at post.news / ROBABURG. And now on to the show.
My name is Noam Bardin, and I'm sort of known for my previous company, which was Waze, the traffic and navigation app, which we sold to Google in 2013. I stayed there for about 7 years as a VP. I left about 3 years ago and have started a new project called post.news.
Yes, and thank you so much for creating that project. I was a Twitter user for 14 years before Elon bought it, and I was very sad to move away initially. It has been a great place to land, and I've kind of redirected my, professional social media presence on Twitter to Post. So it's really been a lot of fun, and actually got more followers on Post now in less than a year than I had ever on Twitter. So it's I haven't lost my audience at all. So it's been great.
No, that's great. And by the way, that's a lot of what drove me as well to found Post. Is I was a heavy Twitter user, and the core use case that I had for Twitter was basically to aggregate news for me. Right, I'd follow all kinds of interesting people. They would share content, and I would receive that content. And what would frustrate me is the experience itself about news and social, how broken all of that was. And to me, that's one of the sad things about kind of where Twitter is today. Twitter was this kind of unique, magical creature. And today it's just like anything else.
Exactly. Yeah, all the things that used to be special about it have kind of been drained away. But Post's design is very clean. It's nice to look at. It's definitely more civil than Twitter, and I don't find there's as much trolling. I've maybe had to block or mute just a handful of people, whereas Twitter, it's just endless. So it's my block list is lengthy, I'm sure, if I looked at it. But yeah, you can edit posts on Posts. That's something I was asking for Twitter for years. I don't know why they couldn't get that together, but that's been great. So yeah, those are all great design points. So.
Yeah, so basically our thesis behind Post is that, you look at news in general, news has not changed in the last 50 years. Yeah, it's gone from a piece of paper to an HTML page to an app, but it's the same entities, same business models, same user experience. You go somewhere, some editor tells you what to read. And there's been a fundamental shift in consumer behavior where today, obviously the younger you are, the more extreme it is. We like to get our news off social feeds. Like that's been the primary driver of traffic to many, many news sites because we like to share and to like and to comment and get different opinions, and we like everything that's around the feed. So I do believe that social is the future of news. But at the same time, the current social media platforms were not built for news. And even to more extreme, in Canada today, Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram and Threads, they'll block anytime you try to post a news article or a link to a news article. They'll block it completely, right? They're moving away from news and trying to block it out. And to me, this is really what at Post we're trying to solve. We want to give you a great social experience that you like, you connect with people, you can follow people, you can like, you can create, you can share, but also the news is built into the platform. So if you want to read something, you click on it, it opens up right there. There's a monetization model, all these things that are built in to try to make it a more seamless experience.
Yeah, and as somebody that's been involved in journalism, I'm the fourth generation in my family to be a journalist, and I've just seen the decimating the news business with print advertising and classifieds and everything else that's been assaulting it. So I think this micropayments model is so far overdue, and I'm just really glad to see a site trying it in earnest. How is it going from your perspective? Are publishers responding? Are readers responding? How have you seen it received?
So let me give a bit of explanation for your listeners who may not be familiar with it.
I didn't really explain this very well, but yeah, go ahead.
Today, when you're on Post, when you open an account on Post, every user gets this digital wallet, and we give you 50 points initially. Points are basically 1 point is equal 1 cent. So it's a model built very similar to Twitch or the gaming networks. But everyone has this wallet, and they can use that wallet to either purchase things or to tip people or tip different accounts. And the goal here is that, if we offered you to read an article for 2 cents, who thinks about 2 cents? Like, what is 2 cents? There's nothing in the world today we can do with 2 cents. But in the advertising world, 2 cents is a $20 CPM. That's a tremendous amount of money. And so there's this gap here between access to stuff. Today you want to read an article, you hit a paywall, they ask you to subscribe. Okay, I'm not going to subscribe to 30 different publications, right? It's just not going to happen. But at the same time, each publication thinks you're going to subscribe to them. And that's obviously a market failure here. So in our view, you as the reader should be in control of what you're spending money on. You don't need to subscribe to one publication that will forever hit your credit card every month, whether or not you read the content, whether or not the content's any good, right? And blocking you from reading any other content because it's paywall. But rather, you should be able to choose articles that you want to read. The creator can set a price for them, but as long as you keep it at several cents, you keep it as something that's really kind of almost free in the concept of a consumer, when you aggregate that for a publisher, that can be a lot of money, and that can also change that basic model. Because when you think about the news world today, you've got advertising, and that basically drove, the listicles, the clickbait, the lowest common denominator, attention-grabbing content. And then you've got subscription, which is great, but only 20% of Americans subscribe to anything, and 10% subscribe to more than one publication. So most people are not subscribed, and if you are subscribed, you only get one view of the world. We want you to get access to everything, not necessarily for free, right? Because we do have to compensate news providers, but that doesn't mean that the only option is to subscribe for $10 a month.
Well, that's a great point too, because there's so many small local publications that they're the first ones to break a story, and I want to give them whatever money from me reading it that I could, but I'm not necessarily going to want to read subscribe for like an entire month. So it's like I want to support you, but I don't know if I'm committed that much. But this micropayments, this point system that you have set up is great for that, because it's like I can throw them a few points and then they can monetize that, but it's not like I'm making a commitment to their publication for a long period. So
a great example of exactly what you're saying is when Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked in San Francisco. The local San Francisco press had the best coverage. Mm-hmm. There's people on the ground, they know the local police, they had the coverage. So suddenly there was a huge influx of attention to the San Francisco Chronicle, all kinds of local San Francisco papers. But the response is they put up a paywall asking you to subscribe. I don't live in San Francisco. I'm never going to subscribe to a local San Francisco paper. So all that meant is I didn't read the article, and they didn't get whatever money I was willing to pay. And instead, no one gained from that. I didn't get access to the content. They didn't get the revenue. But if it was 10 cents to read the article, I wouldn't even have thought about it. I would have read multiple articles. Maybe I would have gotten so excited that I would have subscribed because I suddenly fall in love with San Francisco. Could happen. But in general, that idea of black and white, there's either a subscription or nothing, I think is really detrimental, both to society, but also to the individual consumer.
Yeah. And it seems like, with this new Twitter Blue, X, I keep saying Twitter. I got to start referring to it by its men's deodorant name or whatever it is now. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that joke. It's
you're like, did I say that out loud? Or
yeah, right. Sorry, I may have been thinking that in my head. Oh wait, I wasn't. But anyway, no, I think with this whole incentive program they have for it, it's totally the wrong incentives, because all the worst people are taking advantage of it, and they're just posting to get the engagement. It's not the value of what they're saying, and it's not like, oh, this person wrote an interesting article, I should give them some play. It's like somebody put up some intentionally provocative thing just to get the engagement so they can get the payout from Twitter, and it's like this is totally the wrong incentive that we should be creating, I feel like. So.
And you're right. There's several levels. So when we got started, for a long time, we tried to convince publishers to at least experiment with micropayments. And they were against it for their fear of cannibalizing their subscription business. And one thing that they all said is they have a large cohort of users who subscribe but never read any of the content. People who forgot their credit card there and it's kind of running in the background. And they're afraid to lose that cohort if suddenly people can purchase an individual article. And that's not a way to run your business, right? Basically selling people something they don't want, they don't use, and hoping they don't notice, right? That's not a healthy business. But so it was very hard to convince them. Once the USA Today and Gannett came over, they were the first major brand, kind of the door opened up. So today we've got about 40 publishers who are ingesting content directly into the platform. And that's USA Today and Vanity Fair and the New Yorker and Fortune and the Independent and various CNN, a very large variety of publications. What they're seeing, the average CPM equivalent, so we convert our micropayments to CPMs, CPMs are 1,000 impressions. That's the unit of measurement in the advertising world. So we converted CPMs for comparison. And so they're making between an average of $25 CPMs, which is extremely high. Usually in the industry, it's a $1 to $2, $3. The high end make about $300 CPM. But the most interesting thing is when they publish free content, they can reach a $1.3 CPM just off tips. And this is the thing that blew me away. I never expected they like this sense. Wide in terms of topics and deep in terms of who's writing it. It used to be that news was written by journalists with editors. And that's a very important part of news. But there's also newsletter writers and experts and creators and all different types of other people who have something to say. And so today you can ingest your newsletter directly to post. And it'll show up as a post within our network to anyone following you. And that opens up new monetization options for Substack and newsletter writers because, yes, they've got their premium users, and that's a very important part of their business. But the vast majority of the users who read their free content don't actually pay in any way. And this is a way for people to appreciate, and especially if it's a creator, as an individual person who wrote something that you really appreciate, people will go out of their way to support that person. I guess Twitter and social media have kind of given us the cynical view of the world that everyone's evil, especially people that don't agree with me, right? Anyone who doesn't agree with me is terrible. But the reality is most people are decent. And if you give them the chance, they'll do the right thing. They will be positive and optimistic. It's just that the systems don't allow you to express that in the current social media world.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. And speaking of Twitter Blue, this verification process, Post is the first social media platform I've ever been verified on. And it's just the way that it always should have been, the process. I just proved who I was, and then I was verified. That was all it took. I didn't pay you $8 for that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't, do anything other than just show that I was who I said I was, and there it is. And that's so novel, but it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? That should be the most logical way, because verified means you are who you say you are to me when I think of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I got verified on Twitter maybe 5-6 years ago, and it was a very difficult process, et cetera. But the goal of verification for Twitter and for Facebook, et cetera, was to signal that you're a cool person.
Sure.
Right. That's basically what it was.
I wanted to sit at the cool kids table. It looks so fun.
Exactly. So they wanted to create a cool kid. For us, verification is very different. Okay. We're not about cool kids. Right. But what we want, our goal is for everyone to be verified. And what we will be doing, we're not doing it yet, but soon we will display your real name in your profile if you're verified. Mm. And the point is, we believe that when you're writing under your own name and it's a verified name that's really you're going to be more careful in how you act. Take a redneck kid from Alabama and a woke liberal from New York. Put them in the same room, they'll be best friends. Put a computer screen between them, they'll hate each other, right? Mm. There's something about that anonymity of social media, the fact that you're writing under this assumed names, et cetera, that really allows you to act in ways that you would never imagine yourself acting in the real world.
Right.
And so verification for us is a way, hopefully, to create more civil discourse, getting people to write under their own name, think a little bit twice. Do I want to be represented by this post? Is this post who I am? If we can get people to think, 2 seconds before they post, I think we'll be in a good place.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, I do have some constructive criticisms for it, and I haven't paid you a cent, like I said, so take this with as many grains of salt as you want. But I have found that on posts, the main kind of core engagement I get with anything I post is in the first few minutes after I post, and it doesn't seem to, engagement-wise anyway, circulate as long as other social medias seem to. Like, I feel like when I would post something on Twitter, I may not have gotten as many engagements with it, or Facebook or whatever, but I felt like it was a longer period of time. Is there an algorithm going into how people see things? Is that part of it, or what is going on behind the scenes there?
The problem is that there isn't an algorithm.
Oh, okay, there it is. That's the problem. You aren't telling me what I need.
We're going to get there, right? So
okay, gotcha.
We're new. We just launched in November. We've been live for 9 months. Like we're building a lot of this out. And originally, the only way, one of our challenges, there's a lot of amazing content on the platform, but it's very, very hard to find it. Right? You have to work hard, and obviously that's not the goal. And for this, you want to build all kinds of recommendation algorithms and content recommendation and collaborative filtering and all these different options of how you share content. The first step that we're doing for that is really around what we call topics, which are hashtags. Okay. And what you'll see in the next few days, we're first of all, every article gets automatically assigned hashtags in addition to what the author added. So that a content, even if you didn't push that in, will still be discoverable by what's in the content. Then our goal is for you to be able to navigate content through interest. So you read an article, and at the bottom of the article it says, "Hey, this article is about inflation, U.S. Industrialized policy, whatever." You click on inflation, you're going to get a whole list of other articles about inflation, and from other people, and that's going to be a discovery mechanism to allow you to find other accounts to follow. But more than that, also to be able to go deeper into subject, get different opinions on the subject, different perspectives on the subject. We are working on, it's going to still take a few more months, a pure kind of recommendation algorithm where, based on what you're interested in, we will surface content to your feed so that you will get kind of things that you didn't think that you wanted, right? Which is exactly what you're saying, right? Today, if you publish it, just the people that are following you mostly get your content. And so that's why you get that immediate engagement, and then it kind of dies out. If we have a good recommendation algorithm, it will surface that content to other people who are not following you, but are interested in the same subjects. And that will allow them to be exposed to your content. So there's a lot more coming down that path. And I would say that's one of the bigger challenges that we have. It's always a really big challenge because if you go, let's say Threads went 100% algorithmic. Right? So basically they decided what you're going to read. Now, they might do a good job, a bad job, whatever it is, but that day you might be interested in something else. That's it. This is what you read. The complete opposite of that is 100% chronological, meaning you follow people, their content in your feed, and that's it. If you don't follow them, you don't see it. And so we're trying to find the balance because there are different mindsets when you're looking for content. One mindset is, I open the app, kind of show me what's going on. And you start going through your feed and seeing what's there, and we want to make sure that your feed is as interesting as possible. Another aspect is I'm coming right now because I just heard that something happened and I want to see what's going on there. So you're coming with an intent that's clear, and you want to search for it, or you want us to find it easily, find the content that meets that intent. And so there are all different ways of addressing this, and each one has its pros and cons, and we're trying to find kind of the balance. But more than that, we always want to let users have a certain level of control. I find it very frustrating when something's 100% algorithmic. When it works, it's wonderful. When it doesn't work and you're looking for something specific and you can't find it, it's just terrible.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. Well, going back to when you first launched it, it was kind of an invite only, or you had to apply. I remember, I think I had to submit my LinkedIn profile link and a couple other pieces of identification or something. But how did the rollout go? And did that kind of, because I think Blue Sky is working in kind of the same, invitation only way initially. How does that work as far as launching a social media platform? Does it create buzz, kind of generate scarcity? Are you just not ready to let that many people in? Does it bottleneck the growth? Does it help? Does it hurt? What was it like from your side launching that?
So, traditionally, going back pre-internet days, when you built a product, you'd spend months and years talking with focus groups and talking to people and designing it and building it and coming out. And then you had this big flashy launch and you'd launch the product and then you discover nobody wants it. And you'd be stuck with a dead product. The lean startup methodology, which began with the internet, basically says you want to get your product out as soon as possible so you get real people's feedback on it. And then you want to iterate on the product based on real feedback. Now, Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn and part of Greylock, he has a very good statement where he says, if you're not embarrassed by your product when you launch it, you've launched too late. Right? You always have to launch something that you're really embarrassed by it, because it means that you launch really early, you're getting the feedback, and you can change quickly versus doing something you're really proud of and discovering nobody wants it. And that's really what we did as well. We were highly embarrassed. We launched a product with hardly any of the features, and we had to keep it gated by a invite list because we didn't have basic safety things like blocking and muting. We didn't have search. You couldn't find anything. But all these constraints on the platform because it was so young. And so as we built more and more and more, we could open that up more and then open it up completely. And today we're building what's called in the wild, right? We're building with our users. Users give us feedback directly. We look at the analytics of what they're doing. They tell us what they think. And between the two, we constantly have to prioritize what features we're building and how we're moving forward. One of the problems is there's a lot of that people expect from social media that's the minimum. Since we didn't have it, we couldn't just open up to the world with no blocking or anything like that. And even, as young and early as we are, we've already seen most types of toxicity you can imagine. From nation states building a bot system, to spammers, to trolls, to misogynists and homophobes, like anything you want, anything terrible you can imagine, we've already seen on this tiny sample. We're so early, and so being able to control that is super important.
Yeah, and I understand timing-wise why it kind of had to come out when it did, because when Elon took over, I was like, I can't sit here and complain about Twitter on Twitter anymore. I need to go somewhere else. And I knew that you launched it right kind of I think it was November, right? It was the very next month. And so I was on it as soon as I could. But yeah, I kind of saw that, maybe if that hadn't happened, you might have let it bake in the oven a little bit longer, but I understand timing-wise why it had to kind of come out when it did. So,
and it's a real problem. We paid a very big price going forward because a lot of things that we built really quickly, we had to rebuild later on from an engineering perspective, and we had a lot of challenges. Looking back, though, I still think it was the right decision. With all the pain that we went through, it was the right decision because we really got this amazing group of people that have joined us on our journey. They're helping us craft and the product and build it and design it. And really that's how you build great products, is by listening to the users who use the product instead of what you think is right and what other companies are doing, et cetera. What matters is your users. As long as you can stay focused on them, everything works out in the long run.
Oh yeah, and I can see the improvements too. I feel like when it first started, it would crash pretty much every day, and it would never, I'd reload and reload. It was they'd given me, there wasn't the fail whale, but whatever world. But
I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I haven't seen it crash in quite a while, so it's going better. I did post on my feed that I was going to be talking to you, and I tagged your account, and then that thing you talked about where it automatically generated a topic, and all I typed in was at Noam, but it took from that Noam Chomsky. So
that was funny.
That was the one it automatically generated. So sorry to all my followers who were expecting me to talk to Noam Chomsky. I would like to talk to Noam Chomsky one day, but
and I apologize to Noam Chomsky for having my name associated with it.
Right, people looking for Noam Chomsky content are going to be disappointed, but no, I like it a lot. It's been going great. I'm in it for the long haul. It's coming up on a year, and I've had a great time, and it's the engagement's been wonderful. So I've only grown to like it more. So I've really appreciated it.
That's
But
great. And you know, when we think about the product, like unlike the advertising supported platforms, we don't want everyone on our platform. And this goes back to really believing in something. For example, we believe in free speech in the traditional constitutional way. Free speech is to protect you from the government. The government should not censor you. That's why we won't let any government censor us. That means that we probably will never be live in Russia, and we'll never be live in Turkey, and we'll never be live in these countries where they do have a government does censor. When you see other platforms bend over backwards and censor their users because of authoritarian government's demand, the question is where do you draw the line? And for us, that's where we draw the line. So same thing goes internally. When you look at platforms today, what you hear is the extreme voices. And that's because the algorithms are tuned for advertising, for engagement, and the algorithms learn that the more hateful content you surface, the more time you're going to spend on the platform. You'll walk away angry and upset and hating everyone, but you'll stay more time and watch more ads. So it works for them. And so that gives you this warped perception of society that, you're pure and everyone else is evil, because all you're hearing is these extreme voices. Our goal is to bring up the moderate center. We want to raise them in our platform, make you hear them, not hear those extremists. And that's really a very different kind of approach. And that means that we don't mind suspending accounts. If you're coming to a platform to be a racist, there are enough platforms for you. Go to the other platform. We don't want you on our platform as a racist. We're not going to try and protect you. We're going to try to warn you and then suspend you. Go to Twitter, go to Truth Social. There are a million places for racists to live. But that's exactly why we're trying very, very hard to make that. And that means that, yes, we will have to sacrifice certain people. And, I believe that if you're not willing to sacrifice something, then you don't really believe in anything. If you only want to have everything, you only want the upside and the good stuff, then, anything you do has a downside as well. And so for us, that's a very, very important point. And when we imagine our kind of core user, it's what I call a regular person. Someone with a job and a family and a car and mortgage payments, and that has more to their life than just fighting with other people on social, trolling other people, fighting the extremes. Those people, they've got enough platforms.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the early days of Facebook, because I was in college when Facebook debuted, and you had to have a college email address to get on there initially. And I remember thinking, as soon as they opened that up, and then my parents and everybody else their age got on it, I was like, it's so over. I need to get on Twitter. This is done. It's a different core group you're talking about, but I understand not just letting anyone in. I mean, because you don't want everyone in, I wouldn't think. I mean, it definitely doesn't help the user experience to have everyone there. So,
when you look at TikTok as probably the most successful social network, I don't know if you call it social network, but let's say social platform, the most successful one in definitely the last decade. They're the highly moderated platform. Now they're moderated because of their Chinese roots, right? Not because they believe in moderation, but that moderation is part of what created TikTok and why it's so popular. Because at the end of the day, people don't want racist content stuck in their face. Again, most people, some do, right? But most people don't want that. When you think about Twitter, Twitter never went mainstream, right? It was Facebook is mainstream. Twitter is a bunch of cool kids, and we're all cool kids, so we think Twitter is like everything, right? But at the end of the day, most people don't have a Twitter account. But part of the problem with Twitter also, it's very hard to build up a good feed. You spend so much time curating it, whatever. We need to find that balance, right? How do we help people who this is not their full time? They're not going to curate their feed. They're going to come on, they want to read some stuff, meet some people, listen, comment, etc. Go away. They want to spend 20 minutes on the platform. They don't want to spend 5 hours, right? How do we build for them? And they're the people we're thinking about.
Yeah. One thing, though, that has kind of come about since you've launched is that there's been, we've mentioned Blue Sky and also Threads has come online as well. How do you feel about the amount of competition there is? Because when Twitter was really going, it was kind of the only thing that did what it did the way it did it. And now, you have these disparate ones. You have your posts, you have your, Threads, and it seems like the landscape's much more crowded than it was. So how do you see where you fit into that more competition than I guess there used to be?
So when I think about the landscape in general, I think we're at the end of the arc of the first generation of social platforms. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, right? We're at the end of their arc. They're not going to disappear or anything. Don't get me wrong. I mean, AOL and Yahoo are around, right? They'll still be huge companies, but their importance, cultural importance, is waning. And I think most people are, many people that I know have canceled, have stopped using Facebook or closed their accounts. People are getting off Twitter. But at the same time, we're all looking for the next thing, and we're still trying to find the next Twitter. But there will never be another Twitter. Twitter is a unique thing that happened at a specific point in time.
Yep.
It created this wonderful product, right? These things, it was created in the PC world before mobile. I mean, there's all these kinds of things that are very different than how we think about them now. And that's why I think TikTok is the best example of the next generation of platforms. So TikTok is not a clone of YouTube, but it took a slice of what YouTube does, the short form, kind of funny, creator-based content, and it took that experience and built a product optimized for that. And that's what, made this explosive growth of TikTok. There have been many attempts to do the YouTube of, and none of them succeeded because YouTube is great. You don't need another version of YouTube, right? But TikTok is something else. And I think that's what you're going to see with the platforms coming out, is that platforms are going to take pieces of what you did on social and turn them into a standalone experience. And that's what we're trying to do around news, right? We're trying to take that, people that consume their news off social, we want to create a platform for them to make it a better experience. To clone Twitter, I don't see how you can succeed. I don't think there's ever been an example in history of someone who came along and cloned an existing product and just started it off in an exact clone that worked, right? It doesn't work that way. People today are very different than where they were when Twitter got started in terms of their demands and their thoughts, etc. So when you think about the clones, the pure clones, again, I'm not optimistic that any of them will create a new Twitter.
Yeah.
I think there's the federated networks, which I think are great ideas, like Mastodon and Blue Sky.
Yep.
When Blue Sky opens up its protocol, we'll connect to it. We want to connect to Mastodon as well. And I think being able to share content across networks is a great thing. I don't think that was the problem with Twitter, though. It's not that if Twitter was federated, it'd be fine now. No, Twitter was a sick company before Elon Musk. Had a problem with toxicity, had a problem with its revenue model, had a problem with growth, and all kinds of problems that Elon Musk regarded it was before him, and he did his bit. But basically, the company definitely had its own challenges. And so, and we think about Threads. I think Threads is a phenomenal launch. I mean, it definitely is the number one. I think it beat out ChatGPT in terms of how fast it grew. Amazing story. But at the end of the day, it grew so fast because it leveraged Instagram.
Right.
And that means that the communities created on Threads basically mirror those on Instagram. And so it raises the question of, as a creator, should I post to Instagram or should I post to Threads? Right. As a consumer, should I listen to Threads or to Instagram? I believe they're going to be merged together long term. And that's, I think, the right solution. I think Instagram should have come up with a text unit that's different than their image unit, and been in the same feed with the same groups, the same followers, and everything else, the same connections that you have on Instagram. A separate product that just is the same kind of underlying community, but a different interface. I personally am not optimistic about it, but who knows? When you own platforms that have billions of users, you can do a lot of things.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you again for taking all this time. It looks like we only have like 5 or so minutes left, and you've been a great sport. And I asked my followers on Post if they had any questions I should ask you, and I was wondering if we could do just a quick lightning round. You don't have to.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, of course.
These are your loyal users. They want to know. Are lists and bookmarks on the table?
So list is something that we're thinking of, but we don't have any plan right now. And again, it's not that we don't think lists are important. They are. But there's just so much that we have to do. Right? Bookmarks are interesting. And I personally don't believe that bookmarks is the right solution, just like bookmarks in browsers. Remember when browsers started, we had bookmarks, you bookmark everything. And then all that got replaced with the history in the browser search bar, right? Mm-hmm. Today, you don't really save websites, just start typing and the website pops up. And so what we want to do, and then again, we haven't gotten to it, is basically give you a way to see all of your interactions. So you don't need to bookmark article, just like it. And then you'll be able to go to a place to see all the stuff you've liked.
Right.
And it'll be there. So you don't need to think ahead of time, do I want to bookmark this or not? Mm-hmm. You're bookmarking because in the future, you want to go see that thing. So in the future, you want to go see that thing, you'll open up your history and you'll basically search your history, you'll find it right there. Mm-hmm. But it's always a problem, by the way, also on all the social platforms, how to get to something that you saw a day ago is extremely difficult.
I know.
And that's how we're thinking about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. When will commenting move off of open web?
It will happen. I don't have a date on it yet. There's a lot of infrastructure that's being built for it, but that's definitely the direction. Part of the challenge is OpenWeb is a great product and it allowed us to launch quickly with moderation built in, et cetera. But it's a third-party product, so we can't combine things. That's why when you block someone on posts, you're not blocking them on OpenWeb. You have to block them twice. Right. That's why we can't combine comments and turn them into a post and share them. Like all these kinds of things that we want to do basically assume that we have one platform. Where we want to get to is that every comment is a post. Same unit, same functionality. You can do different things with it. So you can tip someone, or you can comment on a comment, or you can share a comment or repost it. It'll become a post. Like there's a lot of different things we want to do there. And that's kind of where we're building towards. But we've got so much to do. Prioritization is very, very hard.
Gotcha. Makes sense. If you post a series of 2 to 3 photos, can you make it so that they show in one post together?
So we do plan to show a sort of a gallery post where you'll be able to pull a variety of posts and swipe through them in the compact view.
Gotcha.
And so one of the things we're working on, and this is right now on the infrastructure level, so it's not anything anybody can see, but having different types of posts. So one type of post would be a gallery post that would have multiple pictures. One would be maybe a AMA, a live discussion that you could have. Like all different types of posts that you'd be able to, as a creator, to choose which one you want to use for each thing.
Gotcha. Great. Okay, and this last one is from me. When will you be scheduling a cage match fight between yourself and any other social media leaders?
And I think my ego is intact. I don't need to prove anything.
Good answer. I like it. Awesome. Well, great. The one question I do always ask at the end, though, is what music have you been listening to lately?
So it's a problem. I'm not a very big in music. I love listening to music, but I don't really know anything or have any opinion about music.
Oh,
so that's a bad point. But I will have to say, but I know my wife has created a song as a present for my daughter for her birthday, and that's one thing I was shocked to see. You today can actually build your own song, including finding the songwriter and the song and the music and everything, and actually build it and have it shipped to Spotify and actually burn it to vinyl. Really? So I personally am very excited about all the changes happening in the music space, but I don't understand enough about it, and I don't have opinions about it.
Okay. Well, that's amazing. Well, that's a good answer. I've never had that answer before. That's great. That's a new one. Well, excellent. Hey, thank you so much again. Really great time speaking with you, and you're welcome to come back anytime, and I'd love to talk to you some more. So this has been great.
I will. Thanks a lot, Rob. Have a good day.
Have a good day.